Performing seems like something we can't really practice unless we are actually performing. But you can practice performing. There are lots of ways to simulate being nervous. These following exercises will help you learn how to deal with nerves. But I've also got some exercises you can do to just help you prepare for those nerves so you can have a plan when you do get nervous. Here's 13 exercises to help you with performance anxiety. Number 1, 3 or none. This is a practice technique in which you play a phrase or a whole song and you try to play it 3 times perfect. If you make any mistake, you have to start the count over again at number 1. Now, if you play through a whole song using this technique, you'll notice that the 3rd time you play something, when you're really close to finishing, you'll start to hear that little voice in your head that says, "Don't mess up, don't mess up, don't mess up." That's good. That's what we want to simulate. Force yourself to focus on the music, even with that little voice in your head, and that will help you to get ready to perform. Number 2, for better or for worse. When you're by yourself, you have the luxury of stopping and restarting anytime you make a mistake. Well, not so when you're playing with others or in front of others. You have to practice playing through your pieces without stopping. I call this for better or for worse. Whatever happens, don't make a face and force yourself to keep going until the end. Number 3, cold turkey. When you're playing by yourself, you can afford to have a nice long warm-up before you really start playing songs. But when you're performing or jamming, you don't always have time for that really nice long warm-up. You might have to play something cold turkey. So practice grabbing your violin during the middle of the day when you haven't played yet or when you haven't played for a few hours, and practice playing through a song all the way through and see if you can make it through. Number 4, playing way too fast. Another reason performances don't always go the way you planned is because you end up playing the song a lot faster than you were prepared for. Maybe your nerves kicked in and you started a song a lot faster than you could handle. So practice playing something too fast and see if you can hang in there. Now, it might not always sound pretty, but it will get your heart rate up, and that's what we want to simulate. Now, you also need to be very familiar with that normal tempo that you're comfortable with, and make sure you're taking a moment before you perform to think through that tempo so you don't start something too fast. But hey, if you do, you'll be ready because you practiced for it. Number 5, record yourself. A lot. This is kind of self-explanatory, but recording yourself will make you nervous, so it's a great way to practice performing. Number 6, play with the window open or go play outside. Just the thought that people could be listening to you can get your heart rate up. And again, that's what we want. You want to practice being able to focus knowing that people are listening to you. Number 7, imagine performing. Imagine the space where you'll be playing. Are the lights shining on you? Is there a fan blowing on your music stand, making your sheet music blow all over the place? Go through the whole performance and imagine what the room feels like, what clothes you're wearing, what background noise is going on. Think through all the possible things that you might be experiencing while you're performing. This thought experiment is surprisingly helpful. It's kind of like just desensitizing your brain so that you can get ready for that actual performance and it's not such a shock when you do get there. Number 8, play in your head. This is one of my best tools for performance anxiety. One of the reasons you may get so nervous is that you're not really as comfortable with the music as you may think you are. Playing that music in your mind without the sheet music and even without the violin, even in your hand, will show you the exact places where you really don't know what's going on. And those are the places you're probably going to mess up in the performance. And most often it's not the super tricky measures that you're not comfortable with. So know your music inside and out. That's going to help you feel a lot better when it comes to performance day. Number 9, have a backup plan. One reason we get nervous is because we know we're probably going to mess up. But what are you going to do when you mess up? Make a face, stop the whole performance, and ask everyone to start again? Those really aren't options in a performance setting. Things aren't always going to go as planned, so you need to have a backup plan. Divide your music into phrases and memorize the starting notes for each of those phrases. If something goes awry, you can pick back up at one of those starting places. And also make sure you know what key you're in. If you're in the key of D and things start falling apart, okay, just play a D drone until you can figure out where you are and then jump back in. Number 10, play the song with Backwardboeings or with different fingerings. Things will never go exactly as planned in a performance, so practice intentionally and randomly changing things and see if you can still make it through. If you accidentally play the wrong bowing and the whole song falls apart because of it, well, then you've got to practice being more flexible. You're going to make mistakes, that's a given, but how you adjust and move on is the key to taking what could be a disaster and transforming it into a decent performance that you can be proud of. Number 11, exaggerate your tendencies. If you have problems with a bouncing bow, well, try to make the bow bounce while you're practicing. If you always have a death grip on the bow when you perform, exaggerate that and see if you can start to understand what muscles are responsible for that unwanted action. Instead of just forcing yourself to relax, develop a practice routine where you work on honing and developing and controlling those muscles. Number 12, do mock performances in front of someone. Whether this is a pet or a close friend or someone on Zoom, this is probably the closest thing to actually performing. So the more you do these mock performances, the more comfortable you will get with playing in front of other people. Number 13, don't fall off the train. Playing with other musicians can be just as nerve-wracking as playing by ourselves, because we're afraid if we make a mistake, we'll fall off the train and we'll never be able to get back on. So practice trying to not fall off the train. Play with backing tracks like Strum Machine or Tom Play. Strum Machine also gives you the ability to loop songs and increase the tempo automatically every time, which is a great way for getting your nerves going. Practice tempos that are way too fast and practice tempos that are way too slow so that you're unflappable when you get to the real performance or jam session. Now, playing with accompaniment tracks is also a great place to try out your backup plans. If you make a mistake, don't just stop playing and stare helplessly at the audience. Drone on a note and then jump back in when you can, and then smile and make it look like the whole thing was intentional. So you see, getting better at performing is really about preparing for all of the possible things that could go wrong and knowing how to correct them on the spot. Performing well is not magic. It's a skill that you do have to work on. In fact, you may even notice that I have 13 items on this list. 13 is considered an unlucky number, but that is absolute rubbish. There's really no such thing as luck, especially when it comes to playing violin and performing. Good performances are the result of planning and hard work, and sometimes even perseverance in the face of certain failure. So I'll leave you with a little limerick that I've always thought about during my countless hours alone in a practice room getting ready for a performance. What we call luck is simply pluck and the doing of things over and over. Courage and will, perseverance and skill are the 4 leaves of luck's clover. Happy practicing and happy performing.